Bugonia is a 2025 American film directed by Yorgos Lanthimos and stars Jesse Plemons, Aidan Delbis, and Emma Stone. It was written by Will Tracy, who wrote The Menu a few years ago, that I quite liked, and I only just learned that it's actually a remake of the 2003 South Korean film Save the Green Planet. Yorgos Lanthimos is a director whose name has been in my periphery for a while now, at least the last 3-4 years. I saw Poor Things last year, and while it wasn't really my thing overall, I thought it was really good. So I was probably going to see his next film regardless, but it helped that I liked the plot and this trailer. I also like Emma Stone, like probably every human on the planet, right? And I was also really intrigued with Jesse Plemons' part in Civil War from last year. Not to jump the shark or anything, but this is Bugonia. This is another film on my short list so far of surprises of 2025. The plot follows two young conspiracy theorists who kidnap a powerful CEO on the grounds that they believe she's an alien. You've got cousins Teddy and Don, played by Jesse Plemons and Aidan Delbis, and they live together in a semi-secluded neighborhood. Teddy's a part-time beekeeper in his backyard. He's super fascinated with their importance and believes that, there's an alien species called the Andromedans, I think that's the Andromedans, that are trying to kill them off. He also believes that they're basically trying to enslave humanity, and that some of them are already among us on Earth. So for years he's been eyeballing Michelle Fuller, the CEO of a local pharmaceutical megacorporation, who he kidnaps with help from Don. And also Don is a really interesting character. He's in some ways he's one of the more interesting characters here. He's developmentally disabled, and his relationship with Teddy is, it's super sweet. And even though Teddy manipulates him, his heart is in the right place. And I think it's actually important to mention that Teddy and Don are good dudes. Complex to say the least, but Teddy especially. But they are good people. The film really does focus on Jesse Plemons, and Emma Stone, both of their, characters and performances. But Aidan Delbis deserves some attention too. I think because of, the character that he plays, he's going to kind of get, outshined. But clearly there was a reason why he was cast for this role, and he knocks it out of the park. I went into this movie fairly blind. Like I said, I'd seen the trailer. I thought it was cool. I knew it was like a conspiracy theory, cat and mouse type, interrogation story. And I was told that it wasn't nearly as weird as previous Yorgos Lanthimos films. So in a way, I think I expected a simple interrogation, back and forth type story, and I was definitely wrong about that. I mean, that is kind of the main that premise does take up a pretty good amount of the runtime here, but there is so much more. My biggest issue here, I would say, and probably my only complaint really, is that some of the things are a bit unexplained, and I don't really have a problem when something is intentionally vague. Like Teddy's conspiracy theory obsession is not really something that is explored much. So the only way that I can take that is that he is one of the many Americans, and I've met a few myself that have gone down some dangerous ass rabbit holes of just fucking misinformation. How and when it happened, we aren't really sure, and it's fine, it doesn't really hold anything back, but I was left with a lot of questions, like, where did he develop these beliefs? Why did he develop these beliefs? How did it happen? What other wild, wacky things does he believe in? I do want to know these things, and you don't really learn a lot of it, but, I don't know, questions that I had, I assume, writer Will Tracy wasn't interested in addressing. Maybe he didn't think those were, important in pushing the plot forward, and I do get that. I guess you could have seen it as just more of a distraction. The further we go down, Teddy's belief system, I guess the wilder this could have got, and you could have drifted too far from the plot. Well, that's fine. I get it. Anyways, I'll get back to the kidnapping part because that's a little bit important. Michelle handles it pretty well. Yeah, you can tell that she is tough, but even more so that you can tell that she's smart as fuck. And she begins by doing what anyone in her position of importance would probably do. So she pretty much tries to calmly paint a picture of how much trouble that Teddy and Dawn are likely in. When that doesn't work, she kind of, starts to threaten them a little bit. And when that doesn't work, she pretty much denies any accusations of being an alien, like anyone would do. She thinks it's batshit crazy that they would even accuse her of that. Eventually she decides, none of that really works. So eventually she decides to try and outsmart them by just going along with what Teddy's trying to do. She's just kind of like, all right, I'm an alien. What do you want to do about this? So Teddy gives her 4 days to set up a meeting with the Andromedan Emperor, before the lunar eclipse, which allows them to enter our atmosphere. That was a mouthful. So clearly Teddy knows a lot about this stuff. And he's done a lot of research, I'll just put it that way. But I just wish I knew more. I pretty much assume that it's, your typical 4chan shit and all that, and that Teddy, kind of symbolizes young people raised by the internet and all of the, the dangerous beliefs that, people eventually can and do fall into. So since Michelle has to be in Teddy and Dawn's, basement for 4 days, Teddy has to move on with his regular life, of course. He has to leave the house to go to work and stuff like that. So this is where things begin to really get interesting. On his way to work one day, he runs into Casey, played by comedian Stavros Halkias. Casey is a police officer now, and he's an awkward dude who apparently used to babysit Teddy as a kid, and there are, like, subtle hints that he actually had molested him at one point. Teddy he apologizes for it. He's like, I'm not like that anymore, and Teddy seems to kind of just, like, not really care. Like, whatever, dude, I got, more important things to worry about now. I'm not really sure why they chose to include this in the plot. Maybe it's because it was something that they picked out of the original film. I'm not sure. But Casey does unintentionally drive things forward in the third act. When he first appears, I was like, what's the fucking point of this character? I love Stavi, but I didn't understand why he was there. But you do eventually. You also learn that Teddy works at the facility Michelle owns in the shipping department or something like that. And you learn more about why Teddy chose to abduct Michelle, and why he had plenty of time to study her and to watch her and stuff like that. I liked how I was constantly going back and forth with myself. Like, whose side am I on here? Who do I believe? I mean, Teddy is obviously struggling with some serious mental illness on some level, but he's a nice guy. And Michelle is, as you might imagine, not a great person. I'm just going to cap this off by saying this has one wild third act that I know I won't be forgetting anytime soon. If you guys have seen this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I bet you won't forget it either. So I'm giving Bugonia an 8 out of 10, man. I liked Poor Things from last year quite a bit, but this was way more my cup of tea. It's pretty dark overall, but it's also very funny. This is almost a comedy film. It's just overall darkly satirical. It's just kind of like a biting criticism on things that, a lot of us, I think, have been worried about for quite some time. My takeaway was the dangers of conspiracy theory-oriented thinking, mental illness, of course, and also how drug company CEOs fucking view us. But at the same time, man, that third act, there's just something else here that I can't quite put my finger on. There is some other kind of commentary, or Will Tracy, I think, or someone, maybe the writer of the original film, has taken a stab at something, and I just can't quite figure it out because, I'm a dummy. But either way, this one did kind of blow me away, guys. I don't know why Jesse Plemons was not on my radar before, because he is absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to see more of this guy. I mean, I'm an Emma Stone fan. I always have been, and she's great here, as she always is. But honestly, dude, it was Plemons' performance that blew me away. Also, has anyone seen that original Korean film? Because I'm dying to see it now. I'm going to probably try to order a copy here ASAP. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you at the multiplex.
Subscribe right now, please.